Welcome back to Cloud 2K. Now, it is January 27th as I record this. The NBA trade deadline is February 6th. We are less than 2 weeks away from the NBA trade deadline. And you know what? A lot of people are talking about who getting moved where. Jimmy Butler, you got Bradley Beal, maybe Brandon Ingram, maybe Anthony Simons, Alonzo Ball. So many people. Let's get into today's article. So, okay, breaking news. As I was in the middle of recording this, I mentioned Jimmy Butler in the beginning of this episode that he might be traded. Turns out the Miami Heat are suspending Jimmy Butler indefinitely, sources tell ESPN. Jimmy Butler walked out of Heat shoot-around this morning after being informed the team is planning not to start him, with Haywood Highsmith starting moving forward. So I'm not making a whole video about this. I said in my last Jimmy Butler video, I'm done with this whole charade he has going on. But now it looks like he's probably not going to play until he is traded, or I don't even know what's going on. So today's article is 2 words to describe every NBA team 2 weeks from the trade deadline. Eric Pincus. If I butcher that, I'm sorry, Bleacher Report. Also, I do have a bit of a sore throat, so if I sound kind of weird or if there's any weird pauses, probably because I got something to drink. I'm going to try to get through this just because it's that time of the year people are starting to get a little bit sick. So I'm going to try to get through this as quick as I can because I don't want to talk too much and not be able to talk later. You know what I'm saying? The NBA trade deadline is hurtling ever closer. Where do the 30 teams stand during the February 6th endgame? Outside of the 3 most dominant clubs, Oklahoma City Thunder, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Boston Celtics, the conferences are otherwise wide open for playoff positioning. As Duke's Cooper Flag continues to impress among many other 2025 draft prospects, some teams will focus further on securing the best lottery position possible. The following list uses just 2 words to describe each franchise: buyer, seller, or something in between. I'm excited. I don't know how many teams are selling. I really don't know. I think there might be a few teams, maybe potentially the 76ers, that they might shut down Joel Embiid for the rest of the season. But, like, what do they sell? Like, Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, not really much. We'll find out, though. Atlanta Hawks center shopping. Okay. The Hawks run hot and cold on the court, and per competing franchises in the front office, the team ranges from wanting to trade everyone to treating the roster as untouchable. Now that Atlanta has slumped recently, does the pendulum swing in time for a move ahead of the deadline? If so, various NBA sources think Clint Capella is one the team would likely replace him on, with a younger, long-term fit, blah, blah. At the same position, Onyeka Okongwu has played well, but may be best suited off the bench. Yeah, I mean, yeah, who are they? It's going to be Clint Capella, but Clint Capella's been in trade rumors for 2 to 3 seasons now, and DeAndre Hunter was a guy also in trade rumors, but with the way he's been playing, I think right now the favorite to win 6th Player of the Year, averaging 19 points, the most points off the bench this season. DeAndre Hunter, I think, has saved himself a spot on this team. I think the direction of the Hawks has always been iffy because it's like, okay, are they building pieces around Trae Young, or do they maybe move on from Trae Young and build around a Jalen Johnson, a Zachary Richardson? It's like, what do they do? And I think, again, Clint Capella's been rumored to be on the move for 2 seasons now. And I think it's a bad thing that somebody like Onyeka Okongwu has not been able to outplay him to the point where he deserves those starting minutes. So, you know, you took a pretty high pick with Onyeka Okongwu. So if he gets relegated to a full-time just backup big for his career, it's a bit of a disappointment. But we've seen he had his 2020 game against the Charlotte Hornets, against the Phoenix Suns, who then went and traded with the Charlotte Hornets, getting Nick Richards right after that. Yeah, definitely Clint Capella's probably going to get moved. But again, we've been hearing that for a while now. Boston Celtics tax savings. Yeah, the Celtics have one of the highest payrolls in the NBA, which is justified given their recent title. However, the team could look to shed a low-minute player like Jaden Springer to save nearly $13 million. Sure. I mean, I'm not super well versed in this whole tax thing, the salary cap, especially now the second apron. I'm not super well versed in it, so I'm not going to sit here and say I have the right answers for what the Boston Celtics should do. But they're one of these teams where it's like they just don't really have pieces to trade. So there's also a very good possibility that the Boston Celtics team does not do a single thing to the deadline and just stays pat going into the playoffs and hoping that this team is still good enough to win a championship, which I think a lot of us agree it still is. Maybe you get off of Jaden Springer, who's like probably your 10th, 11th, 12th man on the roster. You're not going to get anything of value back from him, but maybe if you can just get that money off, sure, why not? Brooklyn Nets still open. The Nets have been one of the most active teams trading this season, already sending out players like Dennis Schroeder, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Shake Milton. Now that is sufficiently losing, the franchise can move Cam Johnson when he gets the best offer. Look for the bidding to continue through the deadline, and if Brooklyn's ask isn't met, they'll wait until the offseason. Others that could be moved, including Day'Ron Sharpe, Bojan Bogdanovic, or almost anyone else on the roster if enough is offered. Yeah, I think a lot of people agree with the sentiment that they might have waited slightly too long to start trading these pieces. Again, they're going to be a bad team. They're going to be in the lottery, but they have to be really, really bad to catch up with teams like the Jazz, the Wizards. You know what I mean? Like the catch up with these teams that are absolutely at the bottom, because the first 20 to 30-ish games of the season, they floated decently because Dennis Schroeder was playing super, super well. Cam Johnson playing super, super well. Dorian Finney-Smith got multiple game-winning shot attempts. Don't think he hit any of them, but still, like, they were competitive in these games, and it's like you trade Dennis Schroeder, who has not looked that not good at all, really, in Golden State. You send Dorian Finney-Smith to the Lakers, who's I think has been pretty good, but again, box score watchers aren't going to love a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith. Cam Johnson, I've always been an advocate of, I think this is a career year for Cam Johnson because of opportunity. Not saying Cam Johnson's a bad player. I think he's a very, very good player, and we saw that with the Phoenix Suns early in his career. But you're not trading for Cam Johnson thinking you're going to get this 20-point-per-game score. I think if he goes to a team, it's going to drop to a 14-ish. He's still going to be a good shooter. He's also proven his worth on the defense side of the ball. He can handle the ball a little bit. Like, I think he's shown you he can do more, kind of like what Mikal Bridges did when he went, like, because the other guy was in the trade. Mikal Bridges was in the trade. Showed that value of, like, he was kind of the number one for the Brooklyn Nets. We all knew he wasn't a long-term number one, but he showed his value. And I think that's something Cam Johnson did. And so, I mean, shout out Cam Johnson. Charlotte Hornets season loss. Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to talk about Brandon Miller being out for the season. The Hornets have enjoyed productive play from LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, but the team hasn't won many games. Now Miller's out for the year with a wrist injury, joining Grant Williams' knee. Now it's all about lottery position with the season all but lost. With that in mind, any move Charlotte might make would be about the future, not the 2024-2025 campaign. Names to watch include Miles Bridges, Cody Martin, Josh Okogie, and then Micic. I don't know if anybody wants Miles Bridges at this point in time because he hasn't been very good. He's on a decent-sized contract. Cody Martin, I think, could provide a lot of value for a team off the bench as like a kind of a backup wing. I think he could definitely. Josh Okogie just came from Phoenix, so if they're able to retrade him, again, same thing as Cody Martin, might provide some value defensively off the bench. Micic, he can't shoot the ball, man. He's not. I don't think anybody's gonna want him unless he's a throw-in for a trade. I mean, this Hornets team really has struggled to find their direction for the longest time because, yeah, they draft LaMelo Ball. They get Brandon Miller. You have some good pieces, but between injuries, they just aren't really on the court a lot. Same with Mark Williams. Mark Williams has been really, really good recently, but a guy that has struggled with injuries. Nick Richards, same thing. Was pretty good. Like, it's pretty good. Not as good as Mark Williams, but pretty good when he played, but it struggled with injuries, and now he's in Phoenix. This is a team that just seems to not be able to stay healthy, and it's a real possibility this team needs a full reset. Maybe that is trading LaMelo Ball and building about Brandon Miller. I don't really know what they do. Chicago Bulls finally selling. Right or wrong, the Bulls seem to refuse to tank for a lottery position. Non-short playoff runs while continually out of the reach of the top picks is an awkward way to build a team. Yeah, they had the 7th pick for like a couple years in a row, had the 4th pick, then being Patrick Williams, and it's then they've been kind of like in the play-in since. However, Chicago may finally look to move out some of its veterans and focus on the lottery. I don't know. There's a real possibility with the way Zach LaVine's talked before the season, during the season, and just like what teams are available for trades. Zach LaVine might be on this team post the trade deadline. Vucevic is a team that our player that I think could very much end up in a Golden State, maybe the Lakers, but I think Golden State's more likely for Vucevic to end up in. But if you look at Zach LaVine, you know, you think of Detroit, but like with Jaden Ivey coming back next season, what position does that put them back in? Because he was really, really good before he got hurt this year. Orlando's a spot that I think Zach LaVine could fit in. Maybe the Lakers, maybe also the Warriors if they don't get Vucevic. Like, I feel like Vucevic has a spot he could go in that Golden State Warriors team. Zach LaVine could potentially fit in some different spots, even like a Denver team who's actually been really, really good since the turn of the calendar year. So maybe they don't want to bring in a Zach LaVine for probably a Michael Porter Jr. But I don't know. If I'm a Bulls fan, I would not be surprised, or like if you're Bulls fans, I wouldn't be super set that Zach LaVine's going to be gone. He very much could still be here after the trade deadline. Cleveland Cavaliers weighing tax. Okay. The Cavaliers can save a ton of money by getting under the luxury tax. Teams under the threshold also get a sizable kickback from the paying teams at the end of the year, projected to be in the $17 to $19 million range this season. From a personnel standpoint, the Cavaliers are one of the best teams in the league. Outside the recent mini slump, Cleveland may not want to disturb hard-earned chemistry by trying to move end-of-the-bench players like Craig Porter Jr. and Tristan Thompson to get under the tax. Yeah, again, I think like the Celtics, this Cavs team's not going to really do anything. They've been really, really good all season. They've lost a couple games here recently, but You know, including the 76ers game, which is not a good game to lose. But they're still the record-wise best team in the Eastern Conference, second best team in the entire NBA behind only the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't see any way they really change anything because a lot of people on their team play a lot of pivotal moments, minutes. I just don't see them really changing anything and potentially ruining that chemistry. Next, Dallas Mavericks, no panic. Injuries have made the year challenging for the Mavericks, but the team has stayed competitive. The centers keep going down. Derek Lively and Maxi Kleber, which I don't think they're... I don't say they're not happy Maxi Kleber is hurt, but he's not been very good, man. Which could lead to a trade for help behind Daniel Gafford. Otherwise, Dallas is probably a whole team this deadline. Yeah, because they're not... They don't really have any... Dwight Powell is not very good at all. Maxi Kleber is not very good at all. With a healthy Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, and a tested team that got to the NBA Finals this year, or last year, the Mavericks aren't going to panic now. Again, yeah, this might just be one of those seasons where they just get hit with an injury bug. It's probably going to be like April-ish until Derek Lively's back, which should get him ready for the playoffs, and maybe they'll just kind of hold pat on that, because I don't know if you want to trade anything now, because you're getting a lot of people playing now that you have these injuries. Spencer Dinwiddie takes some of the craziest shots. I feel like every time I turn into a Mavericks game, Spencer Dinwiddie's taking some type of dumb shot, but I guess it's kind of the give and take with a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie, especially with that Luka being on the court. I think this team holds still. I think they just hope Derek Lively gets back before the playoffs and is playing like he was last year. Denver Nuggets, minor upgrades. Again, this team has been one of the best teams in the NBA since the turn of the calendar year, so I don't really know if they want to make trades. The Nuggets are about $5.2 million under the second apron hard cap, with minimal draft considerations near zero. Outside of sending cash, any deals that send out available players like Zeke Naji or Dario Saric likely cost the team some of its young players. The alternative might be a Michael Porter Jr. trade, but Denver has played well enough that it may avoid significant change and look to improve around the margins. And I just don't know where it is. I don't. Russell Westbrook's looked really, really good as a starter Russell Westbrook's looked really, really good when Jokic is on the court with him. Without Jokic on the court, Russell Westbrook still kind of has his moments that we all know and, love from Russell Westbrook. But I don't think this team wants to make any big trades at this point in time. And again, even like around the edges, I don't really know what they could trade. I don't think they have the pieces to make a trade. I think if you're a Nuggets team, if you're the front office Nuggets, you're going to look at, we have arguably the best player in the world on our team, and he can make other people around him better, unlike anybody in the league today. And I know LeBron, but like we're at a 40-year-old LeBron at this point in time. But like he makes everybody around him so much better. They might just say, listen, this is still the core we won a championship with. Let's run it back. Detroit Pistons, respectfully greedy. According to other teams, the Pistons are greedy with their cap space, which is appropriate. As the only franchise with room, $14 million, it should ask for first-round considerations for teams to get off unwanted salaries scot-free. Others may have trade exceptions, but are too close to the tax to absorb significant salary. Detroit can also boast a winning record and may look to add players who can help it avoid the play-in and compete at a higher level in the playoffs. I think the biggest thing that I look at this Detroit Pistons team and think they need is they need some other ball handler, especially now that Jaden Ivey's out for, I think, the season. Cade Cunningham had back-to-back games with 10-plus turnovers, and he just has been a turnover-prone guy, especially this season. Again, but a lot of that is he's the one that has the ball in his hand all the time, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's a huge, huge detriment. But back-to-back games with over 10 turnovers it's objectively not a good thing. It's not, and I think they need to bring in some more ball handling. Marcus Sasser has played his minutes, but he's looking for a bucket. I think they could use some type of backup point guard. Is it maybe Alonzo Ball? Maybe Alonzo Ball comes to this Detroit team. I don't think this Detroit team is ready to make a run in the playoffs, but Alonzo Ball, an expiring contract Alonzo Ball, might let you see how he plays with Cade Cunningham in the backcourt, and maybe you can re-sign him to a deal in the offseason, and you have Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, and then off the bench you have Marcus Sasser, you have Alonzo Ball. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's something that potentially could be there. That's what at least I would like for a Detroit Pistons team. Golden State Warriors, considering changes, objectively, they aren't going to do this. They've already made it clear. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Mike Dunleavy Jr., Steve Kerr, they're all on the idea that they don't want to make trades. They just don't want to do it. The Warriors have Steph Curry under contract for 2 additional seasons and would like to improve their playoff chances without adding a salary beyond 2026-2027. Jonathan Kuminga expects a large payday this offseason as a restricted free agent. Golden State may look to move him elsewhere for complimentary win-now players. Again, it makes sense, right? But with everything they've said, they're not going to do it, so I'm not really holding out hope. I think this Warriors team is just going to kind of stay pat for the most part, which sucks because I've talked about it in videos before about the whole Steph Curry thing and how you're letting him ride out, but that's a whole other video. Houston Rockets, optimistically holding, okay? The Rockets knew they were on the right track last year, but the team is better than they thought they'd be this season. While the front office had set up its books for the possibility of a significant trade, they were for a little bit into Jimmy Butler sweepstakes. It's more likely to wait until the summer for a player like De'Aaron Fox or even Giannis. Giannis is not leaving to become available. While Jimmy Butler is a Houston native, he is too expensive and doesn't fit the team's age range. De'Aaron Fox actually would not be that crazy, and I think right now the Kings are playing really, really good since Doug Christie's kind of took over. So maybe this has brought De'Aaron Fox back into the Sacramento Kings enough that he's not going to leave. But I think he could he would fit that role very, very much with probably Fred VanVleet leaving. Well, that's a mouthful. But like with him probably leaving, De'Aaron Fox could be that guy for them. Because one thing about this Rockets team is they're really, really good, but they really, truly lack that 1A. Is De'Aaron Fox a 1A on a championship team? I don't know. I don't think so. But he's definitely a better talent than what they have right now. Objectively, De'Aaron Fox would be the best player on this team. Alperen Sengun's really, really good. I like Alperen Sengun. De'Aaron Fox is just a better player, and he would be their top guy. And I would really like to see this offense they need three-point shooting. De'Aaron Fox doesn't offer a lot of that, but he would get speed, and they're a young team. He would offer a lot of speed in the fast break. I like that for them. Indiana Pacers consolidate now. The Pacers overcame a poor season start, but faced difficult decisions ahead this offseason. Miles Turner is in the final year of his contract, and the team may need to pay luxury taxes to keep the status quo, which would represent a significant shift in the team's modest Instead, Indiana could consolidate its roster by the deadline, getting out of players like Obi Toppin, Benedict Mathurin, and Jarris Walker. The price would be high, and the Pacers wouldn't want significant salary back, likely staying below the tax in future seasons, and the team could choose to wait until it's a now problem this summer. I do think they would want to move on from Obi Toppin eventually, because I think they like the way Jarris Walker plays. Obviously, still a young guy, still very, very raw talent, but I think they like the future with Benedict Mathurin and Jarris Walker, potentially at that 3-4. You still have Aaron Nesmith there as well. I think it would be okay to move on from Obi Toppin. I do think that's something they should probably look into. LA Clippers, deal ready. The Clippers have stayed afloat as one of the league's best defensive teams, so I think right now they took over the Thunder as the best defense in the league. I could be wrong about that, but they're definitely up there. Now that Kawhi Leonard is back playing, the team is eager to move players like PJ Tucker, who, is not playing, and Bones Highland to get reinforcements. LA is mindful of its long-term flexibility, so expensive players may not be the goal, but if a team like the Indiana Pacers wanted to consolidate and move a high-value player like Ben Mathurin with a 2031 first going out, sign them up. Okay, I don't think the Pacers are trading a guy like Benedict Mathurin, so I don't really know if that's worth anything. I think there's no way in hell PJ Tucker should be on this team post the trade deadline. He's just objectively not showing up. He's not playing at all. I think it's like $11-ish million. You got to get that off your books, and I just smacked that. You got to get that off your books, and maybe that is just like trading it for some seconds and another salary filler of at least somebody that'll show up to the games. Don't really know. This Clippers team, I think, surprised a lot of people. James Harden kind of held this team together while we were waiting for Kawhi Leonard to be back. They're now the 6th seed as I'm recording this. This team's a legitimate playoff team, and I think they might want to bring in some pieces to really try to take. They're going to try to make a playoff run. Do I think they will? No, but you have Kawhi Leonard, you have James Harden, Zubac's having a career year, so Norman Powell is also having a great year, so maybe they try to push something. Next, Los Angeles Lakers star pressured. Yes, this report came out. The Lakers' top two stars, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, have made their needs known through the media. They want the franchise to add before the deadline. Davis told ESPN's Shams Charania that he'd like to shift to power forward, with the team adding another big, which he has been saying, since the 2020 bubble. He's basically been saying, I want to continue playing power forward, and they keep making him play center. It was just kind of crazy. He did a whole sit down, but whatever. With the Lakers to the demands of the Utah Jazz, where's the line with the draft picks, 1 or 2 first, and the players they don't want to move, Rui Hachimura, Dalton Knecht, etc.? Or could LA find a reasonable, low-cost alternative with limited second-round compensation to offer? I think it's been pretty clear. Danny Ainge says he wants at least a first-round pick, potentially even a 2031 first-round pick as well for Walker Kessler, and I just don't think the Lakers want to do that. I don't think they want to commit those 2029, 2031 picks to a 40-year-old LeBron James, because it's, again, probably only 1 or 2 seasons left of LeBron, and you want to have those picks for post-LeBron, maybe even post-Anthony Davis. I don't know. Valanciunas, I don't like the idea of Valanciunas in the Lakers. Don't love Vucevic really in the Lakers. Kessler would be cool. Kessler would be cool, but does it make this team a contender? I don't think so. I really, really don't think so. Rui Hachimura is a guy that I think they do need to make a trade, because I don't know if he can reach his full potential with the Lakers. We've seen a lot more of what Rui can do with the Lakers versus the Washington Wizards, but again, he's behind LeBron James, he's behind Anthony Davis, he's not going to get the ball as much as he, as a player, wants to have it, and maybe he just needs to go to a place where he can ball out. Maybe Utah would be that place. Him and Lauri Markkanen and a bunch of young guys just kind of balling out. Maybe that's what he needs, but I don't know. Memphis Grizzlies, opportunistically shopping. Halfway through, boys and girls. The Grizzlies are among the best teams in the West, but the team would like to bolster its postseason chances with a deal. Memphis was close to acquiring Dorian Finney-Smith, but the Brooklyn Nets chose the Los Angeles Lakers instead. I mean, it looks like they might want to move Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard, John Conchar, and Jake LaRavia. A lot of it's because Jake LaRavia is probably going to be gone in the offseason. They just can't pay him. Santi Aldama also came out and said he probably won't be back because they just won't be able to pay him. Brandon Clark, I feel like they would like to keep, but again, money-wise, you're going to have to do what you got to do. They have a lot of pieces that they could make a trade. I thought this was the perfect Jimmy Butler landing spot. I thought Jimmy Butler on this team would be phenomenal, but he also made it clear he does not want to play in Memphis for whatever reason. I do not know. I think it was actually because they won't be able to give him the extension they want, because they do have to extend Jaren Jackson Jr. So, I don't know. It's just more Jimmy Butler stuff, being whatever. So, I don't know. I don't know if the Grizzlies really have a move to make right now. I don't know who. I really don't know who they could go after. There's a real possibility that they just stay packed. I think Marcus Smart's a guy that's probably going to be traded. I just don't think they really have value in him anymore, especially with Scottie Pippen Jr. being as good as he is, Jalen Wells being a phenomenal rookie. They might just want to look to move on from a Marcus Smart. Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler. I feel like I've said this name so many times on this channel. The Heat's relationship with Butler appears to be over in name, but the reality may be trickier to sort out. Can Miami find a deal before the deadline with Butler's salary in the $49 million range with a $52.4 million player option for 2025-2026, which he's already said he won't be taking? Any team acquiring Butler will presumably need to commit to an extension, lest they face a similar year with the forward. Okay, so yeah, again, part of the reason why he does not want to go to the Grizzlies because they won't commit to giving him that extension. I'm so sick and tired of this. I broke the news because right before I started I recorded my little intro section, and then as I went to pull up this article, it came out that they suspended him indefinitely, so he probably won't play until he gets traded, and it's a pain in the ass, and I don't really know what's going on. Khalil Ware, phenomenal. I think Khalil Ware has really, really deserved his minutes now, and apparently they want Jimmy Butler to come off the bench for Haywood Highsmith now, so they want to run like Haywood Highsmith, Bam, and Khalil Ware as their front court-ish, and if that's what they want to do with Tyler Hero and try to figure out with Terry Rozier, I think Terry Rozier is more of a problem right now. Well, okay, Jimmy Butler is obviously the bigger problem, but moving over from Terry Rozier might be something that you might be able to figure out versus this whole Jimmy Butler situation. I'm so tired to talk about it. Milwaukee Bucks, limited means. Again, a team I just don't think is going to be able to do anything because they're in the second apron. The Bucks would like to improve, but the franchise has limited means with its contracts, apron position, and limited draft capital. They don't have any. Any blockbuster adding a player like Jimmy Butler or facilitating Butler to the Phoenix Suns with Bradley Beal to Milwaukee would require the team to get under the second apron. This means finding homes for Pat Connaughton and probably Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis. That's a big ask for a franchise with a few sweeteners to offer. I think they also came out and said that they are making Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton available because at the end of the day, you're trying to make Giannis happy. You're trying to keep Giannis happy to have him stay in Milwaukee. You're a small market team. You have to have one of these best players in the league to, attract some people. Obviously, you also have Damian Lillard on the team. Chris Middleton seems to be one of Giannis' best friends. They seem to get along. They have for years. So it's definitely going to suck. It's going to hurt. But you have to do anything you can to try to get into the playoffs. Giannis hasn't been healthy in the playoffs in the past couple of years, so that's another thing they have to deal with. But they can't lose in the first round. This team needs to be making at least a conference finals push for them, I think, to feel comfortable, and for Giannis to feel comfortable coming back to this team. Minnesota Timberwolves, Randall's future, yeah, they screwed themselves so bad last offseason. The Timberwolves may be more likely to stand pat at the deadline, but they must consider Julius Randle's long-term future with the franchise. I don't think it's a future. I'm just gonna be real. I think as soon as they can get Julius Randle out the door, they need to do it right now. Rudy Gobert has not been as good this season as he was last year. Even defensively, he's taken a step back. Julius Randle was just a headache all the time. Anthony Edwards has been phenomenal shooting the ball, but I think part of the reason he's been shooting the ball so much is because there's simply no spacing on that court. Julius Randle, they're trying to get shoot, but it's he's a streaky shooter. He tries to go down there, and Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert are just down in the paint. They need to move on from Julius Randle. It was a mistake of a trade. They tried thinking ahead, but all they did instead was overthink it and make a trade that really ruined the team that was in the conference finals last year. It's just a whole mess. New Orleans Pelicans, Ingram destination. Again, a guy that's been in trade rumors for the past 2 years that's still in this team, a team that's really, really bad now, so I don't know. The Pelicans likely have 2 goals. Get out of luxury tax and part ways with Brandon Ingram. The former All-Star, currently nursing an ankle injury, has an expiring $36 million contract. While it's not a manageable number to move on, it's not as prohibitive as some other names on the list, Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal, etc. Whoever trades for Ingram will presumably intend to pay him either immediately through the extended and trade or as a free agent this summer. Okay. Again, Brandon Ingram's a guy that's been in trade rumors for 2 years now, and it's this Pelicans team might just have to take a full total reset, get CJ McCollum out the door, get DeJounte Murray out the door, get Brandon Ingram out the door, maybe get Zion Williamson out the door, and you build around Herb. Maybe Herb Jones goes too, because you have some value in a winning team. You build around Trey Murphy, you have Yves Missy, and again, maybe Herb Jones if you want to keep him or not, and then you have Jordan Hawkins. It's they might just have to wash their hands with this whole mess, because it's been nothing but a mess since they've traded for these guys. They sent Anthony Davis to the Lakers, and it's okay, this Pelicans team should be able to compete. They had the number 1 overall pick with Zion Williamson, and they just consistently aren't good. They'll hold it as a 5 seed, and then they'll fall off late in the season. They'll hold it as a 6 seed, they'll fall off late in the season. It's happened time and time again, and I just think it's time for them to reset, try to get some draft capital with moving some of these players, and move on. But again, the problem is, guys like Ingram and Zion Williamson probably had the worst trade value they've ever had. They're probably at their lowest, so maybe you just don't get much back for them. But I think you have to just kind of wipe your slate clean. New York Knicks, bench center. Okay, the Knicks must evaluate Mitch Robinson's progress carefully. Can he fill the backup center role after missing extensive time with an ankle injury? He hasn't played yet. And so the team can hold at the deadline, but assuming Robinson is healthy, in shape, and ready to contribute at a high level could lead to a postseason problem if he isn't. Yeah, I mean, also, yeah, they had press issue there, they mentioned that, but I don't really know who it would be. It could have potentially been Nick Richards, but he is now in Phoenix. I think they're just really, really hoping Mitch Robinson's healthy. And then when he is healthy, what do they do? Maybe they start Mitch Robinson at the 5 and move Cat back to the 4 to help their defense. Their defense has definitely picked up since the start of the season, but that would also hurt their offense, which is one of the best in the league. I think they're going to stay pat. I really, really do. I just don't think there's enough out there. I don't think there's any center out there available that they're going to want to move pieces for. I don't think they want Valanciunas. I don't think they want Vucevic. I think they're just going to stay pat and hope Mitch Robinson can play like himself. Oklahoma City Thunder, picks available. The Thunder aren't likely to make any roster changes of note at the deadline. The best team in the West shouldn't risk any loss of chemistry, and few players around the league would crack the rotation. Chasing a star doesn't make any sense, as the team would prohibitively expensive, whatever. In future years, with players like Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren get paid. Instead, Thunder is looking to consolidate first-round picks. They'll have 3 when 1 may be too many. Yeah, they just don't have any room to bring anybody in. Teams looking to get into the 2025 draft and willing to give up future considerations should give the Thunder a call. Again, I think they're just going to stay pat. At some point, yes, they have to make their consolidation trade. We have so many first-round picks. We have some end-of-the-bench guys that are not going to play for us, but could be in your rotation. Maybe they end up packaging a couple of those guys together for a start in the next year or two, especially if they don't win the finals this year, or if they don't even make the finals this year. I think 2 or 3 of those picks and another 1 or 2 of those young players could make their way somewhere. Who's it for? I don't know. I really don't know. But yeah, I don't think they have to do anything at this point in time. Orlando Magic getting healthy. The Magic have the means to make a trade, but like the Thunder, the team is happy with the roster and sees an expensive future ahead. Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs with issued extensions this offseason, and Paolo Banchero will get paid this summer. Instead, Orlando is finally getting healthy after injuries to most of its best players. Credits to coach Jamal Mosley as a roster for pushing through tough times to stay afloat in the East. The Magic may hold at the deadline. I think there's 2 players. There's 2 players I would like the Orlando Magic to look at, and it's Zach LaVine and it's Anthony Simons. This team needs shooting and needs more offense. They have not had a top 15 offense in 15 years, basically. Maybe top 10. They haven't had a good offense in basically 15 years at this point in time, and Zach LaVine would help that. Anthony Simons would help that. What do you give up? I don't really know. Maybe you move on from Wendell Carter. Who's going to want Wendell Carter at this point in time, though? I'm sure they could kind of figure out a trade. But I just think KCP has not been able to shoot the ball at all this season. They need perimeter scoring to help this offense. Because if they want to make runs in the playoffs, listen, we all say defense wins championship. And I just did a video about these guys on Sunday where I talk about all the problems. Go check that out if you want to really get my extensive thoughts on the Orlando Magic. But defense wins championships. I get that, but they've got to be able to score the ball. And with their guys like Franz and Paolo who can hit the three, they're looking to get to the basket, they're looking to get to the mid-range. They need guys that can sit on the perimeter, catch and shoot, or create their own shots on the perimeter, and that's just really, as a team, what they're lacking the biggest right now. They're the worst. They're 30th in three-point percentage, as they're shooting 30%. That's 6% worse than league average. Anyway, I made that video. Philadelphia 76ers, nursing wounds. I see what you did there. It's been a train wreck in Philadelphia since the start of the season. Coach Nick Nurse has tried to find healthy combinations, but it's been a challenge with Joel Embiid, Paul George, Jeremy McCain, who's out for the year, Andre Drummond, and others in and out of the lineup. Even Tyrese Maxey at the beginning of the season was in and out. Philadelphia is still within range of the play-in tournament, but the team may be hesitant to make a go-for-it type move given how bad it's been all year. Still, executive Daryl Morey has a reputation for chasing deals at the deadline, so keep an eye on the Sixers. If I'm being honest with you, I'm sorry. Keep off with this sore throat. I think the best interest of the Philadelphia 76ers is to shut down Joel Embiid, probably limit some minutes for Paul George, let Tyrese Maxey go out there and rock. But this team is not good. They're just not good. They had Paul George and Tyrese Maxey and they lost 7 in a row. Let Joel Embiid sit out the season, and you absolutely hope and pray he's fully healthy next season to try to make a run, because your window with this Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Joel Embiid team, you only have maybe 1 or 2 more years left before Paul George really takes a bigger decline. And again, with all these injuries, Joel Embiid may eventually hit that decline in the next couple years as well. At this point in time, when he's healthy, he's still one of the best players in the entire league. So I don't want to say he's bad now, because he's definitely really good. Again, just trying to keep on the floor is the biggest problem for him. I think you chalk this up as it was a bad season. You don't really have a lot of good role players. Your stars can't stay healthy. Let's shut it down. Let's get a high draft pick, bring in somebody new, and move on from there. Phoenix Suns, Beal home. Yeah, we just got to find somewhere to trade Bradley Beal. The Suns are entirely beholden to Bradley Beal and his no trade clause. Beal can block it if the Phoenix can find a taker to acquire Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat in this multi-team deal. There's no real way around that for the Suns. Other moves could include finding a home for Jusuf Nurkic, who was just bad. He's just so not good. Those $19.4 million for the next season made the tour. I think Nurkic is going to either be on the team or they're just going to cut his ass. Which, again, it's $19 million, but they might just say, listen, bro, you suck. Or just don't show up to the games, man. We have Nick Richards. We have Mason Plumlee. We have Oso Digizara. You know what I'm talking about. I always have a hard time pronouncing Iguodara, I think is how I pronounce his last name. You have your kind of 3-center rotation. None of them are great, but one's a rookie. The other one's a 26, 27-year-old. And Mason Plumlee is kind of the vet in the situation. You have 3 solid, fine centers where Nurkic just doesn't need to play. He's not been good, especially the $19.4 million. I don't think Bradley Beal is getting traded. I think, if anywhere, he will go to Miami, and Jimmy Butler will end up in Phoenix. But as the days go on, as the weeks go on, I think there's a real possibility nothing happens. Everybody just keeps stallmating, and we're going to get past the February 6th deadline, and they're just going to wait to make a move in the offseason, and Bradley Beal's going to continue being a Phoenix Sun. That's what I think is going to happen. Portland Trailblazers centers available. They have a lot of them. The Blazers are focused on player development and the lottery. The team has too many centers, and DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams can be had at the right price. I don't think anybody wants DeAndre Ayton. You might just have to hold on to DeAndre Ayton at this point in time. I don't think anybody wants him. Since neither is on an expiring contract, Portland can afford to wait until the offseason, but the team is open to conversations. And yeah, they say, I think Robert Williams is going to get moved. I don't think he's finishing the season with the team. He's a really good player. We have to understand, when Robert Williams is on the court, he's a very, very good player. It's just always been about staying on the court with Robert Williams. He'll be phenomenal for 35 games, and then that'll be it. He'll be out for the rest of the season. So he's been pretty healthy this season. I'm knock on wood there. And I think he could really help a team being a backup or maybe potentially starting center. DeAndre Ayton, I just don't see any team that really wants him right now. I don't know where he could even go that would suit him right now. He might just have to stay on the team throughout the season, maybe in the offseason to make something happen, but there's also a real possibility DeAndre Ayton finishes his contract with the Portland Trailblazers. Sacramento Kings, much improved. The Kings went from chaos, teams believing they'd trade De'Aaron Fox, to calm after firing Coach Mike Brown and handing the reins to Doug Christie. Sacramento has been significantly better since then, and it seems to have found desperately needed stability. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I see maybe Cam Johnson comes over. Okay. I have not tuned into a lot of Kings games over the past 2 to 3 weeks. Honestly, since Doug Christie's kind of got hired, I've been focusing on some other teams. So I'm not going to sit here and say I have really a good opinion on what the Kings should do. I really, really don't. This is a team that really broke out, two or three seasons ago, ended up being the top seed, losing the first round, and then they kind of fell off, and they're not fell off, they had similar records, but they just weren't able to improve with the rest of the Western Conference. They looked really, really bad to start this season. They fired Mike Brown, bring in Doug Christie, and again, I haven't watched too much Doug Christie, but you can even look at the record and see that the team just looks so much better under Doug Christie. DeMar DeRozan is averaging like 5 or 6 more points per game with Doug Christie as the coach. If the team has Cam Johnson, do you look at them as contenders? I don't. I really, really don't. So what do they really do? They might just not be able to do much because I don't think much is going to really help them improve, honestly, at this point in time. San Antonio Spurs, no rush. I like this one. Because people have been talking since last season that the Spurs need to go all in with how good Vic was as a rookie. He's going to be better in year 2. They need to go all in and try to make a playoff push. I've always been like, whoa, slow down. They bring in Chris Paul. They're bringing Harrison Barnes. I think those were great contracts. Those were great vets to have around the Spurs organization, around Stephon Castle, around Devin Vassell, around Jeremy Sohan, and obviously around Victor Wembanyama. But this team is objectively, you can just tell they're not ready for a playoff push. So dial back. Go into the lottery for one more season, maybe get one more piece. Maybe you can convince Chris Paul to come back next season to really make sure Stephon Castle's ready to take that jump, because right now I don't think he's ready. He just can't really score the ball, so I don't think he's ready for it now. So maybe another season under Chris Paul will do it. The Spurs could force the issue to add a high-level talent next to Victor Wembanyama. Still, the top names potentially available aren't necessarily right fits. Zach LaVine, Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram. Yeah, I just don't see Brandon, Zach LaVine, Julius Randle, Brandon. None of those guys make this team. You're like, oh man, look at the Spurs. There's just no point in doing that right now. Just develop your young guys. They'll probably end up moving on from Zach Collins. They'll probably end up moving on from Keldon Johnson, and maybe bringing in some more bench pieces to kind of fill out this full roster. I just don't think you need to bring in like a B-tier star, and that's no disrespect to LaVine, Randle, and Brandon Ingram, but these guys aren't 1As. You hopefully have your 1A in Victor Wembanyama, but he's still developing. He's only his second year, man. There's no point in bringing in these guys because all it'll do, it'll put you into weird situation of like, we're good, but we're not great. It's going to be like, oh, we're going to be back in the lottery, a play-in team. Maybe we'll slide it as a 6 seed, but we're not going to be good enough to really make a push. And that's being in that middle ground purgatory is one of the worst places to be in the entire NBA. So you might as well, not tank, but like, might as well just kind of pull back, get your high draft pick, and then maybe in another season or two when you guys have another year under your belt, another piece on the team, then you kind of really push. Toronto Raptors flipping Bruce Brown. Don't know if anybody is going to want him. The Raptors are open for business. Injuries have led to a disappointing season, but the Raptors aren't looking for an extended stay at the bottom of the standings. The priority is finding a deal for Bruce Brown, who the team acquired in the Pascal Siakam deal last deadline. Toronto chose to opt Brown into his final year, $23 million, to utilize him in a trade, but he's yet to find a deal. Yeah, I just don't know if anybody wants him at this point in time. He's like a 6'4" power forward that makes $23 million a year, but he's not as good as Josh Hart. Like, I think Bruce Brown, people have kind of forgotten the idea of Bruce Brown because he was on the Pacers and he was on the Toronto Raptors team. They kind of forgot what he was on that Denver Nuggets team that went to the NBA Finals, or I'm pretty sure he was on that Finals team. Yeah. But this guy, was he on that Finals team? I feel like he might have left a year before. But anyway, he was a big part of the Denver Nuggets team. It's just like, when you start paying these like Swiss Army knives this much money, it's like we might be able to find a guy like this in the first round pick, maybe even a second round pick, like a lot of these guys in this draft this year. You might be able to find these type of Swiss Army knives without paying him $20 million. So he might just kind of be stuck in Toronto. Utah Jazz, patiently greedy. Yeah, they're definitely being very, very greedy with Walker Kessler, with guys like John Collins, with guys like Colin Sexton. The Jazz are among the worst teams in the league, and they're hoping to get a top selection in the draft lottery. The franchise has plenty of available veterans, but none need to be traded in the next few weeks. Instead, Utah will be patiently greedy, asking for too much for John Collins, Colin Sexton, Walker Kessler, and Jordan Clarkson. The Jazz will make a deal if they find a team eager enough to pay their price. Of those lists, Jordan Clarkson is probably the least expensive to acquire. I think they need to move on from these pieces because it's just like they don't have they don't have a fitness team, especially like a John Collins, especially like a Jordan Clarkson. Walker Kessler, I feel like, could stay on this team. Colin Sexton could stay on this team, especially if they're going to ask for 1 or 2 first-round picks for him. It's Danny Ainge. He's going to be greedy. It's what he is. And then the last one, the Washington Wizards vets available. The Wizards are in similar position as the Utah Jazz, with plenty of available players, but few they feel urgency to move. The exception would be guard Malcolm Brogdon, who's in the final year of his deal. Kyle Kuzma just came out and said that he's like pretty unhappy with the way things are going in Washington, which He could have been in Dallas last year, but he's the one that said no to that trade. So that's on you, Kyle Kuzma. I don't know what else to say. That one's on you. I think Jordan Poole has proven his value. Jordan Poole could be a guard on this team for years to come. They have Bub Carrington. Alex Sarr he's having his rookie struggles, but defensively has a lot of upside there. Keyshawn George is a good young piece. They have some pieces, again, along with the Jordan Poole, that maybe Bilal Coulibaly, can't forget about Bilal Coulibaly, that I think they have some pieces in the future. You move on from a Kyle Kuzma, who's just eating up minutes for no reason right now. Malcolm Brogdon's a good veteran guard, but I think a winning team would love, maybe that's the guy who ends up in Detroit. I don't know, maybe. But you have a couple veterans you could probably move on from. Valanciunas, did I say Valanciunas? I don't know. That you can move on from to really let the young guys get a lot of minutes on this team. And again, Kyle Kuzma, he should have been traded a year or two ago. And they just kind of waited because he didn't want to go to Dallas. It was a whole stupid situation over there. Thank you guys for watching this episode. I love trades, man. The NBA trade deadline is such a fun time. Some years it's phenomenal, like the Kevin Durant year. Some years, like last year, not really much happens. There's a real possibility with the names that are linked. Maybe no big trades happen, which would suck, especially with doing this kind of stuff, because I can't really make content if nobody's traded. I made a Dorian Finney-Smith video. I made a Nick Richards video because I'm excited for trades, and some people watch them. One had the Lakers in it, so you're gonna get people to watch that. But I appreciate you guys watching. Go down, like, comment, subscribe. I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers, and I can't do that without you hitting the button. It's free. Just come check me out. I do NBA 2K content. I do article reactions. I just do me talking about basketball. So if you want to just hear somebody else's opinion on the internet about basketball, because Twitter doesn't have enough basketball opinions, why not just go to YouTube for other guys, But I really do appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.